let me remind everyone of something that might be useful when you're talking about a real communication from God in the solid and original sense of the term. Let me apply. I'm not sure if our listeners are aware of this, but Van Til is just an Klein, Gaffin, Van Til, heirs of Voss. That's the
Right.
best way to understand them. Let me give you an example of Van Til as an heir of Voss and an heir of the Reformed tradition on this. I'm not sure many people know about it, but Van Til's work that you and Jim and others talked about, nature and scripture.
Yeah.
The work that he did. It was in the Infallible Word, and then I think it reappeared as a preface to Warfield's Inspiration Authority of the Bible. Listen to this. Van Til wants to affirm of natural or general revelation that it is necessary, sufficient, perspicuous, and authoritative for its purpose of giving man natural communion with God in a fellowship bond in Eden. Now, among other things, after the fall, it has a different function that brings into view judgment. But pre-fall, natural or general revelation, that is, Adam created in the image of God, is in a natural religious bond of fellowship with God, and the natural or general revelation in him and outside of him is necessary, sufficient, perspicuous, and authoritative for the purpose of that relation. But what we could call now, in light of Westminster Confession 7:1 and Westminster Confession 12, Westminster Shorter Catechism 12, providential special revelation, that is, voluntary condescension we call a covenant, that itself is necessary, sufficient, perspicuous, and authoritative for what purpose? For giving Adam the prospect and means now to advance that natural religious fellowship bond to its consummation, to its fruition. And so the 2 points is the 2 points relate in this way: that the natural general revelation, without providential special revelation, though it's sufficient in itself, is insufficient by itself. See, it's sufficient for its own purpose, but the purpose is not to advance Adam beyond probation. Hence, there needs to be a providential special revelation in covenantal condescension that is necessary, sufficient, clear, and authoritative for advancing that natural relation. And so our point, and I think, Camden, maybe this will help, and we can try to keep putting it in ways that are ascendingly clear, always trying to aim for greater clarity.
Right.
But the natural general without the special providential, once again, is what? It's blind. The special providential without the natural general is empty. And so it's best to think of these 2 aspects of God relating to his people as distinct. One is the order of creation, one is the order of special providence. They're distinct, but they're also inseparable. The one is not given without the other. And I think we should push toward a conception of simultaneity. That is, no sooner is Adam formed in natural religious fellowship than God speaks to him covenantally. No sooner has God spoken to Adam than he's spoken to him as formed from the dust of the ground, so that these 2 aspects of natural and general revelation on the one side, providential special revelation on the other side, they're distinct in terms of their economies, creation and special providence, but they're inseparably synchronous in their operation toward Adam. And when you recognize that, you can avoid the whole problem of nature-grace dualism, where nature's designed to function on its own, as per historic Roman Catholicism. It's designed to function on its own without positive special verbal revelation. A kind of self-sufficiency that is not found in this deeper Protestant conception.
Right.
So different conceptions of nature have different conceptions of what addresses nature. Rome's conception of nature is one thing. The modernist conception is another thing. But neither the Roman Catholic nor the modernist notion of nature and history fit with the Reformed. And so as you back out and look at what Voss is doing here, it's just this conception, what we've just talked about. Now, Voss didn't include this. We did it to amplify for our listeners. We admit that. But this solid original conception of revelation. It's that conception that Voss everywhere presupposes, and it's that conception of original revelation that the modernist critics are denying, whether it's Cunin on page 213 and 214, whether it's the kernel revelation theory we'll have to treat another time, or whether it's the divination theory. Here's where he's going. And Camden, I have a feeling we're probably not going to be able to deal with as much detail as we'd like to on the theories yet. We're getting there. We've kind of prefaced it. But here's Voss's point. If you don't believe in what the prophets themselves claim they've received, the Reformed believe it, the Modernists don't, because they have a different view of history, a different view of revelation, different view of nature. Everything's fundamentally different. It's Kantian, not Vossian, if I could put it that basically. It's Kantian, not Vossian. So if you take a Kantian modernist route, the way that you're going to explain revelation, and especially the way you're going to understand the prophet's own understanding of receiving that revelation, and the way you assess it, it's going to be guided by a host of presuppositions and a host of categories that are going to force you to come up with an alternative. Because here's the simple Reformed answer to this question. What is the mode of reception of the prophetic revelation? They received words from God directly in history. That's the simplest way to put it. Now, we can make that more sophisticated and more nuanced as we look at the modalities involved. We'll make it more sophisticated. But the essence is just as Adam received inerrant, verbal, positive revelation from God in Eden, so these prophets are receiving the same in a post-fall environment. And now the question is, okay, if your philosophy of history can't allow that, and the modernists can't, because they're following Kant,
right,
what alternative will you advance? Well, Voss's whole point is that the modernist alternatives are rooted in expressing a different philosophy of history and a different view of the God-world relation. And so putting it this way helps us, I think, get to the methodological and theological heart of the antithesis that always remains between, to put it this way, the Kantians and those after the deeper modernist conception, and Vossians, those after the deeper Protestant or Reformed conception. He's really helping us see once again that what you think about revelation is going to be determined by whether you're a naturalist, mechanical Kantian or post-Kantian, or whether you believe in a history of supernatural, organic, special revelation. If you deny the latter, you're going to be forced to make your theories of prophetic reception of revelation fit with an alien Kantian modernist philosophy of history and conception of God. And I think Voss, once again, is masterful in giving us this upfront and not suspending the differences in order to try to have some objective discussion about what's historical and what's reliable. And we may get into it next time, but what you believe about the nature of history and the nature of the God who reveals himself is going to determine what you say about prophecy's fulfillment and the conditions for its fulfillment.